Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to continue on with the rates and ratios topic, and we're going to go over equivalent ratios review. Now it's called a review topic because it's something you may have already learned in year 7 and we're just going over it again. So let's get started. Just as there are many ways of writing the same fraction, there are many ways of writing the same ratios. So like I said before, ratios and fractions, they're kind of similar. Ratios that can be simplified to the same ratio are said to be equivalent ratios. The following diagrams show this. So as you can tell, the ratio of shaded rectangles to unshaded rectangles is 1 rectangle to 2 rectangles, right? So that's why it's 1 to 2. And the fraction of the whole shape that's shaded is 1 out of 3, so 1 over 3, right? And if you look at this diagram, the ratio of shaded and unshaded rectangles is 2 rectangles to 4 rectangles, right? And as you can see, these two shapes are kind of the same, right? So that means the ratio of 1 to 2 and 2 to 4 are equivalent ratios. So you can just times both sides by 2 and you get 2 to 4. So this is kind of similar to how you have 1 out of 2, 1 over 2 is equal to 2 over 4, right? So you can apply the same concept to ratios. Here you can just multiply both sides by 4. You get 1 times 4 gives you 4, 2 times 4 gives you 8. So 1 to 2 is also equal to 4 to 8. And the fraction that's shaded in here is also going to be 1 to 3 because there's 2 rectangles shaded out of the 6, right? So 2 out of 6, which simplifies to 1 out of 3. 4 out of 12 also simplifies to 1 out of 3. So here, these ratios are all equivalent, just like how these fractions are. From the table above, you can be seen that in all cases, the fraction shaded is the same, so the ratio of shaded area to unshaded area is also the same. 1 to 2 equals to 2 to 4 equals to 4 to 8, where 1 to 2 is the simplest form of the ratio. So that's something you guys should already know. An equivalent ratio is formed by multiplying or dividing both sides of the ratio by the same non-zero number. So here, if you compare this ratio to this ratio, you multiply both numbers by 2 to get this, right? You multiply both numbers by 4 to get this. Alright, complete these equivalent ratios by multiplying. So 1 to 3 is equal to 4 to what? So how do you do it? Well, to get from 1 to 4, you times it by 4, right? So then you have to times the 3 by the 4 to get this number here, which is 12. Example B, 7 to 9 is equal to what to 27? So here they multiplied the 9 by 3 to get to 27. That means you have to also multiply the 7 by 3 to get what? 21. So 7 to 9 is equal to 21 to 27. So this should be quite straightforward. I'm just going to go through an example just quickly. Just say I'm going to do O. 5 to 7 equals to what to 70? So 7 multiplied by 10 gives you 70, right? So then I have to multiply the 5 by the 10 as well, so I get 50. So 5 to 7 equals to 50 to 70. Pretty easy so far. The next one up is complete these equivalent ratios by dividing. So what that means is you're kind of doing the opposite of example 1. In example 1, you multiplied both numbers by 4. In here, you have to divide both numbers by something. So basically what they did was, to get from 4 to 1, they divided it by 4. So if I divide 4 by 4 to get the 1, I have to divide this 20 by 4 to get the other number. So 20 divided by 4 gives you 5. So what that means is 4 to 20 is equal to 1 to 5. Right? Next one up, 21 to 56 equals to what to 8? So basically, how do I go from 56 to 8? I have to divide by 7. Right? If I divide 56 by 7 to get to 8, I have to also divide the 21 by 7, and I get what? 3, right? 27 divided by 7 gives you 3. So that means 21 to 56 equals to 3 to 8. Multiplying increases and dividing decreases the numeral in the equivalent ratio. Yep, so it's pretty obvious. So let's just take a look at question, say, n, okay? 63 to 54 is equal to 7 to what? So how do I get from 63 to 7? I divide 63 by 9 to get to 7, right? If you're not sure, you can always use a calculator. So 63 divided by what gives you 7? 63 divided by 9 gives you 7. 63 divided by 9 gives you 7, so then 54 needs to divide by 9 as well. So what's 54 divided by 9? 6. So then 63 to 54 is 7 to 6. Alright, let's try another example. Let's say E. 36 to 52 is equal to 9 to what? So how do I get from 36 to 9? I have to divide by 4, right? So then I have to divide 52 by 4 to get this number. You can use a calculator or you can do it in your head, but basically the answer is 13. 52 divided by 4 gives you 13. Let's do another example. 38 to 40 is equal to what to 20? So how do you get from 40 to 20? You divide it by 2, right? So then I have to divide 38 by 2 to get this number, which is 19. Okay. Now, if you want to think of this in a different way, you can. So you can treat these as fractions. So this question is basically asking you 38 over 40 is equal to what number? The over 20, right? And you have to figure out what this number is. So it's kind of the same thing. To get from 40 to 20, you divide by 2. So then to get from 38 to this number, you divide by 2 as well. So if this kind of notation looks a bit confusing to you, then feel free to write this as a fraction to get the answer, right? But you don't need to do this if you're comfortable just doing it like that. Express the following ratios in simplest form. So basically what they want you to do is they want you to simplify this ratio in the simplest form. Now there's many ways to do this, so I'm just going to tell you a trick to do this, so you don't need to actually find the highest common factor. I mean, ideally that would be the way the textbook wants you to do it. Find the highest common factor of 42 and 68, which is 6. Then you divide both sides by 6, you get 7 to 8. But I'm going to tell you the quick way to do it. So just use a fraction. Just use a calculator. And all you have to do is type in 42 divided by 48. And then with your answer, convert it to a fraction. So the fraction is 7 over 8, right? So then you can write your answer as 7 to 8. So that's the easy way to do it. Because remember, you can kind of treat ratios like a fraction. All right. So once you get a 7 on 8, then you just write 7 to 8. You see how they got the 7 to 8 here? Let's take a look at the next question. 35 to 20. So then just do, so you can either type this or you can type that. 35 divided by 20, it's the same thing. Equals to 7 to 4, right? So then I can write this as 7 to 4, you see? So that's the easy way to do this, and that's the way that I recommend, because finding highest common factor can take you quite some time, right? Alright, so let's go through an example. So let's just try this last one. Now, who's bothered to actually try and find the highest common factor of this? Well, I certainly am not. So let's just use the calculator. Type in this thing, do 164 over. Actually, better to write it as a fraction, because then you don't need to convert it to a fraction in the answer. So what is this equal to? 41 to 64. So the answer is 41 to 64. Remember to write your answer as a ratio, because it's asking you to simplify the ratio. Do not write your answer as 41 over 64, because that would be incorrect. That would be a fraction. Okay. All right. So that's pretty easy. You can just do the same for all these other questions. So 187 to 154, just 187 divided by 154. In fact, doing a lot of these will become pretty boring, but 17 to 14. So right, 17 to 14. That's your answer. So pretty easy, right? That's how you express the ratios in simplest form. If you want to really challenge yourself, feel free to find the two highest common factors of these two numbers and then divide them, but you don't need to do that. Express the following ratios in simplest form. Okay, so now you can do these questions the same way as the other one. Right, so what you can do is this. You don't need to do the way that they recommend, but 5 to 7 to 3 to 7, what you can do is just type it onto your calculator. So you can just do 5 over 7 divided by 3 over 7. And what do you get? You get 5 over 3. So the answer is just 5 to 3, right? See? Do the same here. 3 to 2 and 2/5. Make sure you type them incorrectly. 3 divided by 2 and 2/5. 5 over 4. So the answer is 5 to 4. See? And the last one, 1.6 divided by 5.6. I mean, you can use a fraction for this as well. So don't use the fraction when you already have a fraction as one of the numbers, because then it will just look a bit confusing. So 5.6, what do you get? Okay, turn this into a fraction. 2 to 7, right? So that's your answer. Make sure you click this button to convert it to a fraction. And let's check the answer. 2 to 7, you see? So like I said, you don't need to waste time and try to do all this stuff. You can just type it onto your calculator, save you lots of time. Express the following as ratios in simplest form. So then just the first question, 4 over 9 to 7 over 9, so is what? Divide. Make sure you divide 7 over 9. You get 4 to 7. So the answer is just 4 to 7. Okay, so now if you don't want to use a calculator, that's also fine. What you could have done is just multiply both sides by 9. If you multiply 4 and 9 by 9, you get 4. If you multiply 7 over 9 by 9, you get 7. So that also works, but you don't need to do that. Alright, so with this question, it's a little bit more different because there's 3 numbers. But what you can do is this. So because they all have the same denominator, they all have 13 at the bottom. What you can do is just get rid of the denominator because they're all the same, right? So then the answer is just 12 to 10 to 14. Okay. Now with this one, you can't type this onto your calculator, so you have to do it by hand. So how do you simplify this? Well, they're all divisible by 2, right? So then just divide everything by 2. So then what you get is 6 to 5 to 7. Okay, so unfortunately, the ones with 3 numbers, you can't use a calculator to do, because the calculator, you cannot do 3 numbers divided by each other. It's not going to work. I'll do another example. So say question E. So like I said, question E, the denominator is the same, right? So just get rid of the denominator because they're all the same. And then you look at the numerator. So the numerator is what? 25 to 10 to 15. So then what you have to do is find a common denominator. So in this case, they're all divisible by 5. So then just divide all the numbers by 5. So that's equal to 25 divided by 5 is 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay, so that's how you simplify this. Now for the other questions, you can just use your calculator to do it because there's only 2 numbers involved. So just be careful with the cases where there's 3 numbers involved. If they all have the same denominator, just cancel them and then write the top numbers down and then try to simplify it. Okay. Alright, so that's question 6 out of the way. Express the following ratios in simplest form. Okay, so now we've done these questions for the previous homework, but basically, like what this guy says, the quantities being compared must be in the same units. So at the moment, you have dollars and cents, not the same units. So what do you need to do? Convert the dollars into cents, or convert the cents into dollars. So I think it's easy to convert dollars into cents. So $4 is equal to 400 cents. So you see how they wrote the 400. And remember, when you write the ratios, you don't need to write the units after conversion. So this will be 400 to 50. And then simplify this. Now you can just divide both numbers by 50, so you get 8 to 1. But if you're not sure, you can just use a calculator. What is 400 divided by 50? You get 8, right? So 8 basically means 8 to 1, all right? So that's what that means. So if you don't have a fraction, that means it's just 8 to 1, okay? So you don't always end up as a fraction. All right, 2 hours to 15 minutes. You got to convert the hours to minutes first. So 1 hour has 60 minutes. 2 hours has 120 minutes. So it'll be 120 to 15. What you can do is just divide both sides by 15. So you get 8 to 1 as well here. All right. Here for 45 centimeters to 3 meters. So normally what you want to do is you want to convert the bigger unit into the smaller unit, because it's easier to go from big to small rather than small to big. So here meters is the bigger unit. Meters is bigger than centimeters, so just convert 3 meters to centimeters rather than trying to convert 45 centimeters to meters. Okay, so 45 centimeters to 3 meters is equal to 45 centimeters to 300 centimeters. Okay, so then just try to simplify this. So what you can do is you can use a calculator for this. You don't need to try and find the highest common factor, which is 15. Just type it in. What is 45 divided by 300? You get 3 over 20. Then the ratio is 3 to 20, right? Right, so let's just take a look at a few examples. Express the following as ratios in simplest form. So let's just take a look. So let's do E, okay? 40 minutes to 1.5 hours. So how many, so we want to convert from the hours to minutes. So if 1 hour has 60 minutes, how many minutes is 1.5 hours? So 1.5 hours should be 90 minutes, right? Because 1 hour is 60, half an hour is 30, so 1.5 is 90. So this would just become 40 to 90. Okay. Now you can either use a calculator to simplify this, or you can just do it in your head. I mean, this one is pretty easy. Just divide both sides by 10, you get 4 to 9. Right? And that's your answer. Question O, 2.6 km to 800 meters. So this is why they teach you how to convert units first before teaching you ratios, because you need to know how to convert the bigger unit into the smaller unit. Bigger unit in this case is kilometers. So convert 2.6 km to meters. So that's just going to be what? 2,600 meters to 800 meters, right? Now this one's a little bit harder to convert. Just use your calculator then. So you do 2,600 divided by the 800. And what do you get? 13 to 4. So you get 13 to 4. So that would be the simplest form ratio. Right? Let's take a look at another one. 24 seconds to 3.25 minutes. Okay. So let me just tell you a trick that you can use for these questions. So now 3.25 minutes. So we know we have to convert the minutes into seconds, right? Because the minute is the bigger unit. How do I convert 3.25 minutes to 24 seconds? What you can do is this. Take out your calculator first. Now we know that 1 minute has 60 seconds, right? So to work out how many seconds in 3/4 minutes, what you can just do is type in the 3/4, 3.25, and then you just multiply by 60. Because we know that 1 minute has 60 seconds. So 3.25 minutes has how many seconds? 195. So then this is equivalent to writing 24 to 195, right? Now the next step is to simplify this. So then just type it in again. So 24 over 195. And what do we have? 8 over 65. So the answer is 8 to 65. So just be careful with these kind of questions. Make sure you convert the bigger unit into the smaller unit, and then you use a calculator, or you can do it in your head for the case of question E. All right, let's see if there's any more interesting questions. So, okay, so I'm just going to go over the last one because it has 3 numbers involved. So let's just take a look. Of the E8 students, so that's you guys, 75 play soccer, 150 play netball, and 125 play football. Find the ratio in simplest form of soccer players to netball players to football players. Okay, so this is a ratio involving 3 numbers, so it's a little bit different, but don't have to be scared about this. So now the question says find the ratio in simplest form of soccer players. So which one is soccer? 75. To netball, so 150 play netball, to football. So the fraction looks something like this. Alright, so we have a fraction that looks something like this, and the thing is we have to find the highest common denominator of all these 3 numbers. So what can we do? So this can be a bit tricky because you need to know what number they're all divisible by. So what we can start with is just, because we know that these numbers are all divisible by 5, right? Because if a number that ends in a 5 or a 0, it's divisible by 5. So we can just divide these numbers by 5 first, okay? So 75 divided by 5, you can use a calculator, but you will get 15. 150 divided by 5 gives you 30. 125 divided by 5, you can use a calculator, but I can do it in my head. It's 25. All right. So now when we get to this, can we simplify this as well? Well, yes, you can, because they're all divisible by 5 as well, right? 15 is divisible by 5. 30 divisible by 5, 25 is divisible by 5. So then just divide by 5 again. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 25 divided by 5 is 5. Right? Now, can these numbers be simplified? No, they can't, because 3, 6, and 5 are already pretty low, and there's no common denominator for them. So then this is our answer. So question 12 is a little bit tricky because we cannot use a calculator to do this question because there's 3 numbers involved. So just be careful in the future when you do these kind of questions. All right, so that's all for today. Just to summarize what we learned today, basically the whole lesson is focusing on trying to simplify ratios to the simplest form. And in this case, you have numbers with different units, so then you have to convert one of them to the right unit first. In some of these examples, like you just have strange numbers, so basically just use a calculator to do it when there's 2 numbers involved. When there's 3 numbers involved, then you really need to take your time and try and find the highest common factor. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you for listening.